Good afternoon, and welcome to another disparaging version of Diatribes from the voice of Doom. Now here is your despondent and desperate host, voice of Doom. Hello. Alright, I'm going to do another one. It's late in the afternoon for me. I have to get to work in about an hour. So I'll make this quick. Not much is going on other than the carpet bombing of Gaza. But I thought I'd catch you up on a few little things I have seen. And, a little bit about my own attitude of, since I've been a doomsayer for many, many years now, and it's finally coming true, I reached that point where it's kind of like I don't really care if I keep up anymore. As far as my life, I begrudgingly pay bills if it comes to the point where I need to do it, or I'll be shut down. But I more or less kind of ignore a lot of things because I feel like, why should I pay my bills? I'll just go to the casino. So my life has been pretty despondent. I'm in a bit of a despair over the future, as everyone should be. But let's get to the future. All right, did a little browsing. And wanted to tell you why I think that this is not going to end well as far as the Israeli-Hamas conflict. Now, Hamas is a major threat to Israel. They threw down the gauntlet and they did something so bad that Israel has no choice but to level Gaza completely. They have tried to be as humanitarian about it as they can, saying we are about to invade full force. Please, all you citizens of Gaza, head south, which is pressing them into a region where they're going to be kind of trapped. They're taking the entire population of something like 2 million and trying to squeeze them into the one half of that area. Now, geographically, we have Egypt to the south of Israel. And one good thing that Jimmy, the peanut farmer, did in his tenure as president, which was an abject failure, was he made possible the Egypt-Israeli peace accord between Sadat and Begin. Now, both those people at that time had been militant anti the other guy. Sadat hated Jews and Israel, and Begin hated Egypt and the Arabs. Okay, but they became statesmen. And sometimes you have a change of heart, and it was just lucky that the confluence of attitudes changed to where they decided it's just not in our best interest to be at war with each other constantly, and peace accords were achieved. And Sadat was assassinated later, and Begin, I believe, lived to be a ripe old age. But that's beside the point. As far as I'm concerned, Sadat was one of the great leaders of the world because he changed his mind and he wanted peace. So you can say what you want about that. But to the north lies Lebanon, which is more or less being run by Hezbollah, which is a much bigger terrorist organization than Hamas. And Hezbollah has been lobbing bombs at Israel, but not to the point where they're going to all-out attack Lebanon right this minute. To the northeast lies Syria, run by Bashir Assad, who I thought would be gone a long time ago, but he keeps hanging on. And Syria's been a pain in the butt for centuries, millennia really, and always been more or less against Israel, but not overtly most of the time. And they've had their own problems with ISIS and this and that, because the Assad regime is a dictatorship, and they don't want these insurgent terrorist groups to take over, which they would love to do. To the east you have Jordan, run by King Abdullah, who has been trying to westernize his country for decades. But he is caught between a rock and a hard place, and he's probably very vulnerable right now because he's playing both sides of the field. He's got a population that doesn't like Israel, but he more or less has always wanted to live and let live, and let's try to get along. At least that's what he projects. Now, to the west is the Mediterranean, which, other than the aircraft carriers from what used to be the United States and other flotillas out there, is more or less a neutral zone. We'll see what happens with that. But in the center of Israel is the West Bank, which is a very much larger area than Gaza and is a holding area for Palestinians. When they wanted a two-state system, they got a two-state system. You get the West Bank, you get Gaza, which Israel's not a big country, so if you look at it, it's a pretty big chunk that they got. So I think they have a two-state system, but that's not really good enough, is it? They want a one-state system, and that one-state system doesn't include anyone of the Jewish persuasion. So there you have the cast of characters within that region. The other ones, the satellites who might be pulling the strings and will help one way or the other: Russia, China, Iran, especially Iran. Now, what's been happening is this. The Israelis don't want a supply chain being established between any of those countries and getting it to the Hezbollah or Hamas people, terrorists. So what they did is they bombed Syria's airports, and they bombed, I believe, Lebanon's airport. I don't know if they bombed Beirut yet as far as the airport, but they've bombed Syria's airports in Damascus and the other city. Can't remember their name offhand. But the two major cities in Syria, their airports have been decimated, so they cannot fly in any weaponry. Now, that would be the equivalent of, let's just say, I don't know, say the cartel made an incursion in the United States, and then we bombed the airport of Mexico City, bombed all the airports. Other examples you could use of bombing people who might help and trying to keep the supply chain from happening. Because it's all about getting weaponry to a place. It's all about getting troops or any kind of resources that you can use for war from one place to the other. It's always been a big factor of war. So the fact of the matter is that it's going to be a hard slog, especially with the flooding in Israel right now, and just the fact that they have to do urban warfare and try to ferret out these terrorists while at the same time trying to rescue hostages. It's an impossible task because it's a very dense country. We'll call Gaza a country. It's very dense with lots of apartment buildings and lots of tunnels, which Hamas built with the monetary aid that they were given, which would be for the good of the Palestinian people. They used it to build tunnels, and they used it to build weapons. So you can make of that what you will. I make of it that Hamas doesn't give a crap about Palestine or their people. They give a crap about having power and decimating Israel and going from there. Now, I read from Revelation 16, and it talked of these things. But one thing that stuck out to me as an overarching theme in many, many philosophies and many, many statements and many, many prophecies is there's going to be a big earthquake. It's going to be a worldwide earthquake. And we've had earthquakes before, and usually they're centered in certain areas where the tectonic plates have reached a pressure point where something has to give, and then you have shaking. And I think the largest earthquake on record is probably 10.5 on the Richter scale or something, which is very strong. But it was, limited to a certain area. And that's happened throughout the world and throughout history. There's thousands of earthquakes every day. Some are bigger than others. But this is supposed to be a big earthquake. Now, as I've said before, I will entertain any possibility, and I will say that the minds of humankind have become more knowledgeable than their moral compass can hold. We've outstripped our moral compass with technology that is probably beyond most people's comprehension that we have. And I think it's within the realm of possibility that scientists have discovered principles about the magnetic field around Earth, which if we didn't have, we wouldn't be here, and discovered theories about how to control nature, that there may be a worldwide earthquake within the next few days or a few weeks, if the timeline bears true. That when all these countries come against Israel, that there will be an earthquake that will be devastating, a worldwide earthquake. So if that just happens to happen over the next few days or weeks, then I think I will be given more credence than I have been given in the past. It doesn't take a genius to know that everything's going bad, and it doesn't take a genius to predict an earthquake, but a worldwide earthquake which is so devastating, which could be 15 on the Richter scale, throughout the world, where the whole earth shakes. I mean, if there's a scientist out there that has the brain to figure it out, they will figure out a way to make the whole earth shake. Yeah, I figured out if you do this and then use these satellites and create these electronic fields here and here and here, I could make the whole earth go up and down. I'm sure there's people that have the brains to do that. So when that earthquake happens, New York City and Chicago and LA and Miami and every other place with large buildings will crumble. And that's just going to be more stuff to worry about, won't it? Because not only do you have Hamas doing atrocities and then begging for peace and hiding in their hidey holes while the Israelis are getting ready to roll through Gaza and try to take out as many Hamas terrorists as they can, if not all of them, while at the same time rescuing hostages and at the same time trying to safeguard civilians who have been told to get out, but the Hamas people won't let them. Now, al-Sisi in Egypt has said he will not accept Palestinian refugees at the south of the border, which is going to create a bottleneck, and it's going to create a humanitarian crisis which is much worse than we have now. Hamas will be decimated. Hezbollah will jump into the fray. Lebanon will have to be decimated. And then Syria, since they've had their airports destroyed, will probably say we have every right to attack Israel too. And Jordan, I predict that King Abdullah should just go to Aruba and say, forget this, because his life ain't worth a plug nickel. That's going to be another spark and powder keg which plunges us into Armageddon. Is this Abdullah guy is going to be dealt with by the indigenous people who are sympathetic to Hamas and the Palestinian plight. So between now and Halloween, I predict worldwide destruction, cataclysm, catastrophe, and demolition. I hope I'm proven wrong, but at least I won't have to pay my phone bill. So we'll leave it there. I didn't say much, but I'm going to get more in depth about this whole Middle East crisis if I can, but I have to do some homework. So I gave you an overview of how things are going bad, and everybody knows it, so I don't have to say much anymore. So have a good afternoon and enjoy what's left of our future.